Kibellah, the Death Cult Assassin. Cabela joins our retinue around level 4 and in Act 1. Cabela is a DLC companion from Void of Shadows, and she is an incredibly powerful one at that, mostly just because of her tier 1 archetype, which is Blade Dancer, something that just absolutely changed what was defined as overpowered in this game when it dropped. Cabela's homeworld is unfortunately Void Bomb, which isn't the best, but does give us 10% chances to reroll some failed dodges and parries, as well as some other things. And unfortunately, because she is not Deathworld, she can't be built into the strongest version of a Blade Dancer, which means that in Act 1, getting wounds and traumas can actually be run ending for her. However, this does not hold her back at all. She is just absolutely insane, and we're going to go through what we do to build her to get the best out of her. At level 1, Cabela gets Blade Dance. This is a 2 AP burst attack which scales with agility. At rank 2 we get Medicaid. Medicaid is going to be very important to level up on her because it's going to be what goes into her Executioner. Rank 3 we get Death from Above, which is an area attack based on weapon score and agility, and every kill generates a stack of this. Rank 4 we get Death Waltz, which makes a number of area attacks based on the Death from Above, and the upgrades to this are very powerful. Rank 4 she gets In the Footsteps of Death, which is if enemies have died during allies' turns, that her next turn starts with +2 MP per dead enemy. Rank 5 I like to get into Dueling Mastery to start increasing her parry as well as increasing her weapon skill. The first ability to take on her is Blood Oath. This is the most important ability, and it will guarantee your next hit, and it can have an upgrade that gives you MP. We also increase the Medicaid here. Rank 7 we take Weapon Skill and we get Blood Rush. Blood Rush is when the Blade Dancer uses an ability that costs wounds, they gain 3 MP in the current turn. This can be used infinitely along with Blood Oath, and it can also be used with some of the Executioner abilities to generate MP. Rank 8, now you can choose to go into Demolitions or Athletics or Carouse or whatever have you. For now I've gone into Athletics, but I pick up Jinx. The reason I pick up Jinx is whilst Voidborn characters more than 50% wounds, all chance of all creatures including enemies in the 3-cell radius are increased by 10%, while Voidborn characters less than 50% wounds, all chance of all creatures including enemies in the 3-cell radius are decreased by 10%. This increases her ability to proc chance-based effects. This includes the Skirmisher Boots and her own reparry abilities. Rank 9 we get Death Waltz upgrade 3, which gives us +4 additional charges of Death from Above and adds agility bonus to all damage. So that might be unintended, but that is what it does. Rank 10, I pick up Dance Partners, which as long as the Blade Dance has 2 swords equipped, the Blade Dance gains weapon skill and it is increased by agility. Very good for actually landing those hits. We then get some more agility and then Captive Audience. Captive Audience is in its own way quite OP and has a number of uses. The Blade Dancer's next attack inflicts bleeding, and on all targets hit, the targets must pass a toughness resistant test or become immobilized. This can even be used with Psycho Powers and Backdraft to massively cast this out, but for Cabela you'll normally use this with Blade Dancer in her Executioner. We then take Death Warden. The Blade Dancer's Medicaid is now determined by weapon skill instead of intelligence, which is very big. The Blade Dance deals 5 plus Medicaid divided by 10% critical damage and uses medkits as if having the Medicaid skill advancement and the Crownspone of Vija Talent. Very, very good for what we're going to build here. More agility, more athletics. At rank 13, we take dual weapon combat. You're going to be using 2 swords, so you might as well sometimes have an extra attack. Rank 14, we take toughness, and you have a choice between Escape Artist and Guillotine here. I like to go Escape Artist whenever the Blade Dance dodges an attack made by an enemy who has attacked them for the first time. The Blade Dance gets +1 charge, Death from Above. Can be very useful on that first turn to have additional charges. And lastly, we take Death Waltz upgrade 3, which means we now armor strip enemies with our Death Waltz. This can one-shot Aurora. She is incredibly strong. Kibellah, when set up right, can entirely solo encounters even on unfair. She is such a powerful companion and so useful to the team. Kibellah's tier 2 can be built into Master Tactician, Executioner, Arc Militant, or even Assassin. All of these are incredibly viable and require different things out of your Blade Dancer, but the Blade Dancer can carry them all. Blade Dancer can pretty much carry anything. However, the strongest archetype is by far Executioner. As before with Heinrichs, when you take Executioner, you can increase the stack of dots when you apply new dots and instantly proc dots that already exist. You can add bleeding to the end of your melee attacks, and you also get the ability to do a hit that does 3 times proc of dots. Very useful to start building up dots and getting instant damage out of this. The first ability I like to pick up here is Pain Resonance, because it adds sort of an AoE bleed effect. So all enemies suffering from damage over time effects and 4-cell radius around the executioner immediately suffer an extra instance of damage from these effects. They must also pass resistance tests or suffer additional negative effect at the effect type and resistance depending on the initial damage over time effect. So if they were bleeding, they get blinded. If they were burning, they get slowed. If they had toxin, they become staggered. It's very good to start building up some more damage. Rank 3, we get Anatomy Expert, which means that our Medicae determines our health, not toughness. Rank 4, we get Carnival of Misery, which doubles the damage of all dots. Rank 5, AP increase, and then Weapon Skill. Rank 6, Weapon Skill, and an optional here is Invigorating Screams. Whenever the enemy in a 4-cell radius around the executioner suffers damage from damage over time effect, the executioner regains toughness wounds. Now, Cabela has a lot of toughness on kill items starting off in the game, so you will get a lot of use out of this, and she greatly benefits from Iron Arm. Rank 7, we get Reckless Abandon. We can turn 30% of our health into percentage damage, and it also generates Blood Rush movement. The more HP you have, the more this does, and there are ways to boost it quite high. Rank 8, we take Does It Hurt, because this now allows our dots to have higher chance to crit, and we also pick up Lord Xenos. At rank 9, we take Agility and then Drukhari Weapon Proficiency. We will be using Drukhari Toxin Swords, which is the most damage that you'll get out of her build. At rank 10, we take Fragile Playthings. Now, what this does is first instance of damage over time about the Executioner reduces enemies' armor. Now, this can be built with another ability to greatly increase your damage. At rank 11, we take Agility and Medicae, and at rank 12, we take Carnival of Misery Upgrade 3. This will allow us to put character's level divided by 10 dots on enemies when we use Carnival of Misery, including ones we can't see. Rank 13, we take Wrecking Weakness. The damage dealt by the Executioner's damage over time effects is increased by Medicae percentage damage for every 10% penalty, and this stacks beyond the enemy's total armor, so you can do incredible damage here. I've seen a 18,000% increase in damage. At rank 14, we get some strength from Medicae. Rank 15, we get an Exsanguination. The Executioner immediately inflicts bleeding on an ally of their choice, including themselves. The ally gets a bonus to dodge and 3 additional MP until bleeding ends for any reason. Very useful for movement. We then take base skill Medicae because it boosts all of our stuff. You can take some of Cabela's assassin abilities here if you really want. Rank 16, I like to take Perfect Anatomy to make it more survivable because you get Medicae more armor. Again, you can move up other abilities to here. Rank 17, we get Strength and Athletics. Rank 18, Master of Torture. 5% more damage for each damage over a time effect on enemies. So this does stack. We then get Strength, and I take Advanced Skill Medicae. Again, like I said, you can move up some of her Blood Assassin stuff if you really want. And lastly, I take Carnival of Misery Upgrade 4, which means damage over time effects now healer, so your own bleeding will start healing you. Yeah, you become incredibly powerful. You just start jumping around the battlefield, applying dots, hitting things, exploding things, guaranteeing hits with Blood Oath, blade dancing with captive audience, and just generally being an absolute menace to society. You can either use Death Waltz to make yourself incredibly overpowered and then just jump around the battle, destroying it in one turn, or if you have a Pyromancer in the party, you use Carnival of Misery so they can start spamming in Flame. Now, Exemplar is when we become even more overpowered because we just keep winning. We take some Eager for Battle, which gives us plus 2 AP on the first turn. Guillotine will double death from above damage to enemies below 50% wounds. More Medicae. We get all-encompassing Agony, which means if we have 3 different dots on enemies, they take 30% more damage. We then get Weapon Skill, and we take Dance of Blood. The Death Cult Assassin allies do 2 plus agility bonus % more damage to enemies if both the ally and their target stand on blood-covered cells. You can take some of these abilities earlier, but I choose to take them later. Acrobatic Archery is very good. You will reverse every death from above that you've taken this turn, which means if there are enemies still alive in your path, you'll go back, and with Guillotine, you'll guarantee those kills. You'll get Medicae and Peak Condition. This turns your Medicae HP into Strength. Massive, massive damage boost here. Also pick up Deep Lacerations, which will increase the amount of bleeding you inflict on your melee. Take Weapon Skill and Rising Tempo. Each attack made by the Blade Dancer increases the damage of all subsequent attacks made this turn by up to 5%. It goes up to 15%. I then take Terrifying Strikes. The Executioner's next melee attack forces all enemies hits to run away from the execution in a straight line for up to 3 cells. Basically, you can move through those bloodstained cells at the cost of 0 MP. Unfortunately, it doesn't use your blood blessed cells. It'd be amazing if this enabled you to use that. Agility, then Unbearable Presence. Enemies running away now provoke attacks of opportunity. I also grab Dance Thorns here, which is each time Death Cult Assassin parries or dodges an attack, all enemies suffering bloodstain effect get +1 of this effect. This is quite wide. More Athletics, then Degraded Defense. Huge damage spike, more AP. Duelist will then increase our damage by 5+ weapon score bonus against enemies with melee. melee, so that's quite useful. More athletics. I like to take spinning blades here, which is whenever the blade dancer parries an attack, the number of attacks made by the blade dancer that's blade dance is increased by 1. Some people have used this in Act 1 to absolutely annihilate Aurora. I then take Bloody Mess. Now, there are other options here that you can take some of the Death God Assassins, but anytime the Voidborn character scores a critical hit, there's a 10% chance to double the damage. You do a lot of criticals and a lot of sources of damage, so this is very good, and with your Voidborn that has even higher chances. We then get some more agility, more strength, some crews, and then vital points. Because of our high number of critical percentage, we use this quite a lot. I also take Bloody Requiem. The reason I take Bloody Requiem is every time you kill, you get +1 resolve. You start off with fairly good resolve, but there are several resolve stacking items that Blade Dance has access to that I'll explain in the item section, which makes this very strong, but it's also more effective towards the end of the game. Rank 16, I start taking in some more of the Assassin's abilities because you're pretty much done. So just picking up your Blood Blessed stuff, whichever ones you like, is fairly usable here. Race Against Death will increase the Blade Dance maximum wounds increased by their dodge. You have pretty high dodge, that is quite useful. That will then increase your strength even more. Crimson Tide, again, more of the Blood Blessed stuff. And Gift of Torment can be quite useful because you can increase your armor and dodge and deflection based on the number of enemies inflicted by things. But chances are they're going to be dead before you really get much mileage out of it, which is why I take it later. More strength, critical velocity, which is pretty good, and grand performance. Grand performance probably could be worked in much earlier because it can be useful for enemies that you don't kill in your blade dance, but I find that I kill so quickly I don't really need it. You could technically swap this out for another Blood Blessed ability, and I also at rank 20 you finally get AP increase, so your Menace Society has now been complete. We're going to go over some of the items here, and as you can see in the footage in the background here, this does a lot. Now, I'm not going to say that these are going to be the best items for Cabela, but these are some options for Cabela. Some of them will do more than others, depending on your setup. And Helmsop, Carmine Crown. Whenever a bleeding, burning, or toxic effect inflicted by the wearer deals damage to an enemy, that enemy suffers 5% armor penalty against the wearer's attacks, and the wearer gains 5% critical hit chance against them. This is very strong with Fragile Plane Things and Racking Weakness. The other thing we take is the Vial of Faustos. This means a Dogmatic Run, which increases your resolve by quite a bit. Cabela can be built up to 3 dogmatic and possibly higher. I don't know, I haven't tested how far you can really push it, but 3 seems to be where I have her. So yes, you can see that 11 resolve. If you could get to 4, then it would obviously be 13, so you get +2 for each of it. And it also increases your initial movement. You can use other things, but the Bygone Sorrow from her story basically can give her 1 extra attack, 1 AP a turn. So it's not too bad. It also gives you 10 dodge and parry when you're not in cover, which often you won't be. There are other options to it. If you prefer a different armor, then go with that. Knuckle Guard I've got left on her. This is probably the prime candidate for an item that you could replace, but it gives you 5 weapon skill. It also grants the equipped melee weapons 5% armor penetration and +2 damage. This is the big one, Voidborn's Pride. Whenever the wearer kills an enemy, their Medicae increases by your resolve ×2 until the end of combat. Now, this can, every kill will keep increasing your Medicae, which increases your HP, which increases your strength. There's a lot of stacking here. It also increases your damage of your death abilities from Blade Dancer and also from your Racking Weakness and Fragile Playthings. I've easily gotten Medicae up to 1,000 doing this, and because we're increasing resolve and kills, this can go through the goddamn roof, making Kibellah do some insane damage. I've done over 100k in a single hit, as you will see in previous videos. Very powerful. For the gloves, I still like Crimson Oblivion. That means kills help get us our Blood File effect and build up our Blood Best. If you're not building into any of that stuff, do replace these gloves and feel free to do so. The Cape Blade Dancer's Mantle, this will increase resolve damage on our deaths from above. There have been YouTubers that have shown doing over 1,000 damage extra just in death from above from this item alone, and because kills and resolve are stacking, this is going to keep increasing. DLC added some very good boots here in the Impulse boots. Whenever the wearer makes a melee area attack, they get 2 MP and +16 critical hit chance. Every death from above gives us 2 MP. So that means we can generate MP from death from above as well as our Blood Oath. So you literally death from above, Blood Oath, that's +5 MP, and you are going. Weapons, like I said, you want the Drakari Toxin Swords. Virulent Slicer now comes even earlier in the game, which is incredibly strong. And you also have the Sharpened Venom Blade. 2 very high damage hit weapons here. Very good. All of her Blade Dance stuff also applies to Rock Swords, so I have that in secondary if you ever want to smack something really hard, especially with where it hurts. This is what you're going to normally use it with. So yeah, those are the items on it. Very, very powerful stuff. High resolve, high movement, high damage. This girl's got like high armor, high dodge, and it all just keeps increasing and stacking. So yeah, Cabela is one of your best possible companions that you can use. As for alternative builds, like I said, this is the Executioner variant. We have a Death or Assassin, which means things just die when you go near them. On the old sheet, I haven't gone through and optimized, but we still have Cabela's old builds that I put together for her. These could use a little bit of optimization, and I'll probably update them eventually. But no, it seems I didn't even carry them over. But you can build her into a Arc Militant or Master Tactician. I will probably get around to it, because I believe the Master Tactician version, if they ever do this brutal mode where they limit attack economy, I think that's going to be one of the better ones. And obviously Arc Militant has a lot of mobility, but I just found that wasn't necessary and the damages didn't keep up. But that's how I like to build Kibellah. Fantastic companion, fantastic to use. If you want to see it in effect, come watch me on my live stream. I did a short stream last night, and I went to the Derelict Void ship at level 19, and I got absolutely handed my own arse because I kept walking into traps, which means no one's perfect. And yes, you can watch me rage and make it through that and still manage to beat it whilst underleveled, but not in a flashy way. My god, did I put my own builds to shame. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Rev now, have a good one.